The ancient Greeks would discuss the subject of forms of government, and this could have been a subject of rigorous debates back then, as it is today. If you ask the question, what is the best form of government, and you ask many people from a wide array of backgrounds, you're going to get, one would think, a wide and diverse number of answers. And dare I say, some revealing descriptions. Revealing in the sense that people will tend to lay open their values and beliefs when such a question is asked. But I want to focus on one thing in particular here, kind of. So, something I notice tends to come up with a degree of frequency is people with, I would say, more conservative beliefs saying they want smaller governments. And this may well be followed up with lots of talk about individual freedoms and not wanting to be swamped with bureaucracy. Then maybe a rally against the size of the welfare state could follow this. The desire to do away with unnecessary red tape is, of course, reasonable, an exercise we should carry out with more regularity in this country, perhaps. But professionally run government departments, competent administrators, highly skilled civil servants, surely we should want these things. I feel that rallying against bureaucracy as if it were a monolithic deity, as some seem keen on doing, is not helpful. No. I don't mean to tar everyone with the same brush, but small government cheerleaders, not all, but a good proportion I've observed, have a willingness to call this or that form of welfare wasteful when talking about so-called lazy or work-shy types. But if you try to talk to them about our ageing population, or the more general impact of unhealthy living on our healthcare system or healthcare expenditure, and this is just my experience, but yeah, I've encountered some hostility, some indifference, or the simple desire to change the subject. You know, like, I'm not talking about that. No. Then maybe the subject of immigrants will come up, or be thrown into the conversation. Yeah. Small government advocates I've talked to recently, not keen to talk about spending on the military either, not keen to break down those defence spending numbers. Given the battering the welfare state has taken in the last decade in the UK, with tax credits, child benefits, disability benefits, incapacity benefits and housing, all have taken hits, poorer people obviously suffering more than others due to government cuts, you might think small government cheerleaders would be celebrating those strings of dependency having been cut for so many. They'll now be able to pull themselves up by the bootstraps, right? Right? A further somewhat irritating characteristic of little gov conservative advocates is the support for hardline drug banning policies, tougher sentences as well. Not just for dealers, but for users. So, you want more people behind bars, more money to be spent on maintaining and expanding the prison system, but you're for smaller government. Okay. So the picture I get, or the vision I see, coming from certain voices in conservative circles, is a government looking to perhaps do away with the welfare state incrementally. A state which needs to be way more concerned with pumping cash into the military machine and punishing criminals than it does with any deep concerns about poverty or inequality or any of that liberal crap. And maybe a government with less departments, less bureaucracy. Right. For me, much of the chatter about small gov sounds like an old school view of the state, a rehash, authoritarian tendencies on display, and perhaps a romanticized view of the rugged individual. Yeah. Trim the fat, cut down hard on this or that. Yeah. I don't think we should overly focus on the big versus small government discussion. Interesting as it is, and some important things will come from that conversation for sure. But the main focus should be on better government. Right and justifiable government. What is the general good and how do we serve it is a question which government should be primarily concerning themselves with.